Okay, welcome to episode 1 of Fortunes and Freedom, Authentic American Entrepreneurship. That is what we're all about here at Fortunes and Freedom, is that authentic American entrepreneurial adventure. My name is Joe Pellegrino. I've got Joey Gulino with me here today. And man, I am so excited to get started on all this.
Me too, Joe. I'm very excited.
Dude, we started this, so even before your time, we started, Andrew, my business partner and I, we decided that we wanted to get into content. And this was like back in like November of last year when we first started working together. And man, we just kept pushing it off. And finally, we're just like, we just got to pull the trigger. We just got to do it. So,
and I feel like that's kind of the battle for a lot of things in life, is just pulling the trigger. This is actually the first time I'm going to be on YouTube since I had a short-lived career when I was younger. I had a YouTube channel and I had a show. Yeah? You won't be able to find any of that on the internet anymore. Got rid of that. As soon as I hit middle school, I had to get rid of that. But I'm excited. I'm really excited. So thanks for having me.
Good, man. I'm really glad about that. I mean, let's get into some quick introductions here, since this really is our first official episode. Let's just sort of dive right in. So for everybody that's listening, whoever the heck is listening, I mean, somebody's probably listening. We're probably on episode 40 by now if somebody's already listening. But my name is Joe Pellegrino. I am the owner of J. Michael Strategies, and I am the owner of Fortunes and Freedom as well. And basically, my whole shtick, like everything that I stand for, is pro-America. Like I love this country. I love the opportunities that we have here. And I love the fact that I get to be sitting here with the next generation, talking about entrepreneurship, talking about what building businesses look like, talking about what it looks like to raise a family as a small business owner. I mean, there's so many things that we all deal with, right? And I think for me, this idea of authenticity, which we'll get into that, deeper into the show, but this idea of authenticity, it's going away. Authenticity is not a real thing anymore, the way that we really always understood authenticity to be. There's no real integrity anymore, right? So anybody that says that they're authentic, when you see influencers and stuff like that, it's all just fake stuff. And what we want for this channel, for this Fortunes and Freedom channel, is this is where you get the real stuff. Right? Absolutely. This is where you get the no BS. Look, here's the successes that we've had. Here are the weaknesses. Here are the failures that we've had. That's reality. The reality is that sometimes my wife gets pissed off that I have to come home late. That's the reality of running a business, right? That's authenticity, right? That's authenticity, right? And that's what we really want to get into. So real quick, like I said, I'm the owner of J. Michael Strategies. We started this company about 2 years ago. It's turned into a much larger engine than I ever expected it to be, which we'll talk about that story a little bit later. But here I've got with me, like I said, Joey Gulino, who's actually an employee of mine. He's a project manager at J. Michael Strategies, and he is being groomed to be one of the sort of head personalities on the Fortunes and Freedom channel. So, Joey, I'm so glad to have you here. You're a great addition to the team.
Really appreciate that, Joe. And thanks for the job, because I love it here,
Good, man. So tell me a little bit about you.
So I recently graduated college. I went back due to COVID. I did another year and I got my master's degree, and I played one more year of baseball there where I was the team captain. Mm-hmm. And just through this whole process of COVID and going back to grad school, it just really taught me just to appreciate the moment and just live in that moment and be grateful for everything, because you don't know how quickly something can be taken from you. And that's why I'm really excited to be here, because who knows when our last shot could be, or last video. So
yeah, no, it's true, man. It's true. So you graduated from Roger Williams this past May. What was your degree in?
So my degree was in marketing, and I had a minor in graphic design.
Okay.
So I like to have some type of design mindset like yourself.
Gotcha. So you have a BS in marketing, heavy on the BS, I'm assuming.
Heavy on the BS. It is marketing.
Yeah, exactly. So no, that's really good stuff, man. And you played baseball as well, like you said.
I did. I played baseball my entire life. My older brother plays baseball as well. Baseball has been probably the first love of my life, and it's just something that has taught me so much about just life. And it's America's pastime. I don't know what else to say about it.
I love that, man. It is America's pastime. Did you catch the what do you call it? What's it called?
Field of Dreams. I did.
Field of Dreams last night.
Not the outcome we hoped for, but it was pretty cool to see a few home runs going in the cornfield. So.
That intro that they did of the players walking through the cornfield,
Unreal.
It started off, I was like, oh, that's kind of corny. But then I was like, wow.
Well, what's interesting is half the viewers out there probably have no idea what that movie even was, or the Field of Dreams.
Yeah, so. I've actually never sat through the whole movie, believe it or not.
Really?
I know. I feel super ashamed as a baseball fan.
Well, I'm sure we'll see it on Netflix Olympics within like the next few weeks. That's usually how they work.
For sure. Well, good stuff, man. So let's talk a little bit about this idea of entrepreneurship, because that really is sort of the foundation of this channel. And I thought it would be really, really appropriate to bring in somebody from the next generation on this first sort of introductory episode to sort of, throw it around. I mean, I think we have a lot in common in that we're both, from up north, we're both Italians, we both love baseball, we both love, traditional American values, all that kind of stuff. But obviously there's a somewhat substantial age separation between us, so I think that's really good fodder for conversation. So let's talk a little bit about this idea of American entrepreneurship. Have you done much traveling outside of the U.S.?
I've done a ton of traveling, actually. Yeah,
Okay.
I studied abroad in Italy my junior year of college.
Yep.
And in middle school, I did a program. It's called People to People, and that's where I spent about a month, and I traveled to Italy, France, and Greece.
Cool.
And I was by myself. No parents. We had a chaperone, but that was the first time I really stepped out of my comfort zone and went to a whole different country and had that culture shock. And when you come back to America, it makes you appreciate America so much. Just having ice in your water. That was one of the biggest things for me. And just not having to have public bathrooms.
Yeah.
Everywhere else in Europe, you need €1 to go to the bathroom. So just like little things like that, we take for granted. AC. We take AC for granted a lot. I was sleeping on the floor. I was so hot. But it really just makes you appreciate the country we live in and everything that comes with it.
Well, and that's the thing, man. Like growing up, I loved traveling. I used to go on mission trips all the time. I've been all over Europe, been all over the Caribbean, South America, all that fun stuff. And I used to always kind of feel like, man, America's kind of less than, right? There's all this like culture that's out there, right? And here we have America, and it's like, this is just sort of really stale. And so through my teenage years, I traveled, a lot, and I couldn't get enough of it. And I always kind of felt like, man, I always want to be out somewhere else, like other than here. And then I moved to Scotland for a while, which is my wife is Scottish. She's from there. She's got the accent, the whole thing. Anyway, so I lived there for a little while, and my time there, more long term, is really where I realized how different it is in this country, and how good we have it. Okay. How all the things that like literally we take for granted. And I know that sounds so cliche when we talk about like, don't take what you have here for granted. But like literally, like we take those things for granted because they're just like, that's just how it is.
And we can talk about taking it for granted as a ton, but you're never going to really understand it until you step out of your comfort zone, you go to a different country, and you see all the struggles and their daily life and how you compare it to how your daily life is back in the U.S. It's night and day. It really
is. And even like first world countries like the UK, where it's like, you think like how different could the UK be? Like really, like how different is it? And that was always like my thing with the UK. I was like, oh man, I love the UK because, it's different enough to be interesting, but it's similar enough where I'm comfortable. And when I lived there, I realized that it is a lot less comfortable than I was expecting it to be, just in terms of like the way things are run. The sort of purpose of this conversation is about entrepreneurship and small business, and so I'll kind of speak to that rather than going down a political rabbit hole. But from an entrepreneurial perspective, running your own business in other countries where the government has a much stronger presence, where there's a lot more sort of top-down sort of control, it's not the same as here. Because here, everything, it's not just that the government incentivizes you for business, and that's growing less and less these days, but it's that it's in the culture. It's in that it's our spirit as Americans. Like you think about the the westward travels back in the the 1800s. People picking up all they own and literally walking across the country for opportunity to lay new roots and start a new homestead. That's the spirit of entrepreneurship right there. That's what it is.
And they didn't even have the internet. They didn't have a phone to go check it out to see how. They didn't have YouTube to look up how a city was. They were just going off of just pure hope, I guess you could say.
Literally, just pure hope. And that's that really is like when you talk about like entrepreneurship and what that sort of looks like. Starting a business from scratch, right? It's really easy to get that done in this country. It's really easy to like be able to do that, but then to actually like run and grow that business
to it,
is a
put all
totally
your eggs
different
in that
thing.
basket.
It's a totally different thing to actually, because there's a lot of hope behind it. All you have, you don't have like a GPS that's going to tell you all the things you need to do as you're growing your business. There's resources out there, but at the end of the day, you're completely hanging your hat on hope, and it can be terrifying. To be honest with you, like there's been a couple of times in the past 2 years that I have been just scared out of my mind, to be honest with you. Okay, and I mean, I can even I'll even be transparent enough to tell you that since you've been hired, I've had one of those times where I'm like, what am I doing? I'm terrified right now. We're not, the bank accounts are not where they're supposed to be right now. Like, that stuff happens because these are small businesses. That's what it is.
So how do you get over that, Joe? Like, what do you tell yourself to get back in the office and because you never have that attitude when you're in the office here. You're always portraying a very positive and a very strong outlook on the future for this company.
Well, I think, any leader is going to have those kind of issues. Like, is going to, in terms of like, you always have to have like the happy face on when you're with the team and you have to lead them. But it can be really really tough during those moments. What I find the best things to do in those times are, seeking counsel is a huge thing. So my father is, effectively my business mentor. He's done it all before. I grew up in an entrepreneurial household. He was always an entrepreneur. I actually never really knew what he did, just because he was an entrepreneur. So he was always doing something, right? So I was never really able to give an exact answer like, this is what my dad does. And anyway, so because he's got that significant experience and he's in his late 50s, he knows, he's been there before. He's able to sort of speak into me a little bit in those moments when I'm like, man, I don't know where the next check is going to come from. I don't know, what that's going to look like. And by the way, don't worry, we're good. But there are those times. And what I find also for myself is that, as an entrepreneur, you have to be aware, very, very self-aware, because one of the things that sort of goes hand in hand with entrepreneurship is sort of I don't want to say like a crazy genius, because that's not quite it, but it's like there is a level of insanity that you have to have. Just a touch of it, a sort of a like, I'm just going to jump in with both feet and devil may care kind of thing. You have to know yourself though, and know your weaknesses. And for me, I know that every 6 to 8 weeks I run in cycles, like my wife, but hers are 4 weeks. But I run in cycles, and every 6 to 8 weeks I know that I am going to start getting anxious, stressed out. Sometimes it's situational, sometimes it's not. Sometimes it is situational, but it's something that like on a normal day it wouldn't bug me, but because I'm sort of in this wave, it starts freaking me out. So what I've learned is to sort of anticipate those times and to anticipate like, hey, this is coming. Like right now, like to be honest with you, like I'm at week 6 right now of a cycle. And so I think, I'm starting to feel anxiety build. I'm starting to get nervous about nothing in specific. So because I know that, I start to anticipate that. I start to seek counsel. I start to talk to my dad. I start to talk to other peers like me. And just really quick to digress, that is a big piece of what I want this channel to be. I want to be a peer. I want you to be a peer.
That's what I was going to ask you is you're grateful enough to have a father that was in this industry. You have friends that are in this industry. You have a wife that you can counsel too. But we may have some viewers out there who don't have those things. So is that what you're envisioning this channel, where they can come here and they can seek counsel, they can comment, we'll reply, and we'll offer our advice to them?
For sure, man. That's what I want, because again, this country is so unique in our ability to create and to innovate and to be entrepreneurs. And I want other people to have what I have, because the freedom that I found through entrepreneurship, even with all the anxiety, even with all the fear, I am living my very, very best life. And I know that I'm building the very best life for my family through it. And I want other people to take advantage of that. Fortunes and Freedom, as you know, started out as a program that we have within the company. And so what the Fortunes and Freedom program is basically the ability for people to come in with a certain skill set and, build their own e-commerce stores, which they partner with our company in. Okay. So basically we've got Aiden, who we'll definitely have on the show at some point, really, really soon. He comes in with a pretty solid skill set, from an e-commerce perspective. He doesn't really have the funds to be, throwing money at ad spend. He also is just one guy. And so basically we as a company come alongside Aiden and we partner with him on his venture to where he's making a significant portion of the profits that he generates. And so we're doing that together. And so the goal is that Aiden starts to build his fortune and thereby gets his freedom. Fortunes and freedom. And that's the whole point.
You really help alleviate some of that risk that comes with starting your own business and going out on your own, and you're not by yourself. That's what's great about this.
That's the whole thing.
There's that expression, I'm sure I'm going to butcher it, but if you want to go quick, go by yourself. If you want to go far, bring others with you.
Yeah.
Along those lines, and that's exactly right.
That's the whole thing, man. That's what we want. So like within our company, within J. Michael and Fortunes and Freedom, I want to be there for my guys. But I also know that there are guys out there, and people that are hopefully listening right now, that need this kind of support, and they need real support, man. They don't need an influencer spitting their success stories and, showing their 7-digit. I mean, that's great, fantastic, and we should learn from those guys. But at the same time, like, there's got to be like some like practical stuff, right? There's got to be some like listen. You can be me in a pretty short period of time. It's going to be hard. There's going to be stuff that happens, but you literally could in a very, very streamlined fashion, do exactly what I'm doing and be exactly where I am. Whereas a lot of these guys that we even watch, to seek inspiration from, those are either lucky guys, or they have significant investment behind them, or they've worked at this for a really, really, really long time. And but I want to be accessible.
That's what I was going to say. There's so many guys out there like that who are successful, who show you all the numbers they're making online. And then when they actually have some real advice to offer you, sign up for my webinar.
Yeah.
$100.
Right. They try to charge you, right?
That's one thing that gets people.
Yeah. No, it's true, man. And again, I find that all that is becoming so stale. Like how many videos have you watched on YouTube to learn where they're all saying the same basic thing?
Yeah.
They're all saying the same thing. And that's where I want to say something a little bit different, in that I want to give you that practical advice. I want to flaunt our successes, but I also want to talk about our failures, because that's what we're learning from. And that's what you're going to learn from ultimately as a viewer, whether you're listening or you're viewing this. And that's really what I want. For me, I have no gain in you thinking that I'm something that I'm not. I have no gain in that. I have a guilt complex, and I don't want to ever. To me, it would destroy me if you thought I was something that I wasn't, because I made you think that, and then you found out that I wasn't. That, to me, that's like my worst nightmare.
It's like the sleazy car salesman,
It's like the Fire Festival,
the Fire,
dude,
classic.
That is my worst
example.
nightmare.
Yeah.
My worst nightmare is that I would somehow end up like, what's his name? McFarlane, I think was his last name. Anyway.
I know Mike the Situation was his cellmate in prison, which is kind of funny.
Are you serious?
Yeah, so I'm sure they crafted some crazy idea when they got out.
That is funny, man. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Jersey Shore put like New Jersey on the map.
Not
in a good way.
Yeah, it was infamous. But.
When I went to college, I used to tell people I was from New York City, because nobody really knew where New Jersey was. And then Jersey Shore came out that year, and then I was like, oh yeah, that's actually where I'm from. And I thought you're from New York City. No, I'm actually from Jersey. Oh, you're from with the situation, the whole thing.
Exactly. You gotta go down that rabbit hole. I do the same type of thing. I'm from Meriden, but no one knows where Meriden is, so I tell them New Haven, and then they're immediately like, oh, that's the pizza capital of the world, and I don't want to get into this with you. All right, so here we go. But yeah, so that's what I usually tell people too.
That's funny, man. Well, yeah, I mean, I again, not to beat a dead horse here, because this is going to be throughout the channel, but authenticity is what I want to exude here in everything that we do. Everything with the company, the clients that we deal with, authenticity, transparency. We never guarantee anything. All we can tell you is that we're going to apply our expertise, and that plays really well with clients.
I think those two things go hand in hand: authenticity and transparency. Because you get a lot of people saying that I'm authentic. As soon as I hear that, I'm like, no, you're not. Until you show me that you are, and you open the door, you let me in, and that's something I think that we're going to be doing a great job of. We have nothing to hide, and we have everything to gain. So
I agree with that 100%. Well, let's talk a little bit about the sort of authenticity, as it were, in this sort of, J. Michael and Fortunes and Freedom story, right? How this all sort of came to be. Whether or not you care, the context is going to be helpful for everything that we kind of talk about. So let me. I mean, I'll kind of start from the beginning really, really quick. We've already sort of addressed some of these details, but I grew up in an entrepreneurial household. Like I said, I had no idea what my dad did. I knew he did something with media and like newspapers and stuff, but like I never really knew until I was in 7th grade and my dad started his own newspaper. And that I remember the relief that I felt that I could actually say to somebody, I know what my dad does. My dad owns a newspaper. That was like super relief for me. So
what was it called? Do you remember?
Yeah, Life and Leisure.
Life and Leisure.
Up in Wayne, New Jersey. It had like 50,000 circulation. It was a great newspaper. He just sold it 3 years ago, 4 years ago, in 2017, to move down here to Florida. Anyway, so I grew up in sort of that type of a house, an entrepreneurial house. What's funny is that my wife did not. My wife obviously grew up in Scotland, and she grew up in a home where, her dad was, he had his job that he worked for a very long time at. He actually only recently just left that job and started with a new one a couple of years ago. But she's used to very much the kind of a job where there's a contract associated with it. There's a there's a handbook, the whole thing, right?
Very safe for a better lack of
very
words.
Very safe, exactly. Yeah. And entrepreneurship is not safe.
No, definitely not.
And my dad, before my dad started the newspaper, he lost a pretty decent sized company that he had built up. So I saw for myself how unsafe it is. And to be honest with you, at the beginning, it wasn't really what I would say I wanted. So basically, the way that my story sort of goes is after college, I moved to Scotland. I worked for a really, really small sports marketing company. It was like golf marketing. I hate golf, so that was a stupid thing for me to do. I lasted only about 6 months there. I had a 2-year visa, lasted only 6 months. We already talked about, sort of my feelings about there. I wanted to be back in the U.S. really, really bad. So when I moved back to the U.S., my dad told me, hey, welcome back. Let's start working. You should start your own publication. Because again, he had a newspaper, so he's got printer connections, he's got the whole thing. And I was a graphic artist. That was always my specialty. Throughout high school, I always worked for the newspaper designing ads. So I started thinking about, okay, what kind of a publication would I do? And so I started a fitness magazine called NJ Iron.
It's a good name.
It was all right. There's like, looking back on it, I would have done a lot of things differently, but I published five editions over the course of 5 months. That were I'll have to show you sometime. They were good, man. I mean, they were pretty good. I think I did a pretty dang good job for just being a 22-year-old kid, running a magazine. I sold advertisement, sold editorial. The whole idea was that it was going to be for the average personal trainer who can't really afford to take out big ads and big publications.
So like local New Jersey,
very
local,
local, very hyper local.
That's very cool.
So anyway, so I did that for a while, and then I realized very, very quickly that I was way too young to be doing it. Now that doesn't mean that you're ever too young to be an entrepreneur, but I was too young. I didn't have the maturity at that point. I was very tentative about things. I was kind of craving the safety, like what we just talked about, of like a contracted career kind of job. So I left NJ Iron and I went and worked in the restaurant industry. A friend of mine is a franchisee of the Smashburger franchise. He was opening restaurants up in Florida. That was my opportunity to move back to Florida, and that's sort of what brought me down here most recently. So I managed restaurants in Jacksonville and Orlando, and I actually, when I started off, I really liked it. Like, I loved how dynamic the restaurant industry was.
Business,
so much fun, and then it wasn't fun anymore. And
you worked on a weekend, huh?
I worked every weekend. Weekends for me were Tuesday and Wednesday. That's what weekends were. And if I was lucky, it was Tuesday and Wednesday. But usually it was like Tuesday, Thursday. Like, it was never like 2 days in a row.
Yeah, it's tough.
But what I learned in the restaurant industry was how to run a business. That's where I learned about what cost of goods sold is. That's what I learned about labor costs. That's what I learned about all that, all of the sort of, financials involved in running a business.
Managing employees.
Managing employees. That was a big thing because I thought I was going to come in and manage a team that was, and they were going to just like revere me. And that was not the case, especially when they found out how old I was, because I was 23 at the time. And, I was the general manager of multiple restaurants. And when some of my line cooks that were like 40, 50 years old found out that I was 23 years old, the respect was gone, just instantly gone. And I kind of I didn't do much to sort of
earn their respect.
Earn their respect, exactly. But I learned a whole lot, and I very quickly realized that, okay, if I'm going to become a husband one day, if I'm going to meet a woman, have a family, the restaurant industry is not the place for me. It's not. I also really struggled with anxiety during that time, like a ton of it. So I moved into from there. I moved into a corporate environment, which I thought was going to be the end all be all. 8:30 to 5:30 every day. I clock in, I clock out. Nobody bothers me at night. Easy peasy. I did that for a little over a year, and then I started getting bored of it. And my buddy Jared, who you've met before, we played golf together. He was starting a digital agency here in Naples, and he was like, "Hey man, I want you to come run it with me." And to me, remember I was a little touchy about entrepreneurship at this point, but to me, I figured, all right, Jared's sort of the pilot. I'm just going to be the co-pilot. So it's probably a good opportunity to sort of be in a flexible environment without really too much risk.
Mm-hmm.
So I moved over here to Naples and started working with Jared. Worked with him for a couple of years. Then one of our clients, who is a turf company out of Norway, which is why you have this Norway mug right here from one of my trips over to Norway.
In the office.
There you go. From one of my trips to Norway. So they had a turf company that they wanted to franchise in the U.S. So I ran that for a couple of years. They had asked me to do that, and I remember at the time when they had asked me, I was starting to get really fed up with the whole, working at a desk all day. I was starting to feel like, man, I want to be using my hands. I want to build. I want to do all these things. And it's so funny because sometimes the things that you think you want are not the things you actually want. And when I went to work with the turf company, I hated it. Honestly, I'm sorry, Evan and David. I hated every second of it. I tried my absolute best. I tried to make it work, but it just wasn't working for me. So this is where my dad really sort of came in and played a huge role and sort of brought me back into, hey, you need to go and do your own thing. You are the kind of guy that needs to go and do your own thing. You want to have a work-life balance. You want to do things your way. You have a lot of ideas. Go do your own thing. And what he encouraged me to do was to be a consultant. Mm-hmm. And to me, the idea of being a consultant, at this point, I was 30 at the time, 29. At this point, I didn't feel like I had the experience to be a consultant. But what he explained to me was, listen, Joe, you know more about you only have to know a little bit more about these things than the people that are hiring you. And as long as you're transparent in that, that's really, that's going to be a good situation for you. But also, a lot of these people that hire consultants, it's not that they're desperately seeking expert advice. It's that they themselves don't have time to deal with it. So he, go out and get some clients. I quickly acquired 3 clients and saw that was exactly the case. It was just that people didn't have time to deal with the stuff that I was able to help them with. And what happened was basically my clients started asking me for things that just because of my experience I was able to do. Hey, can you do a website? Hey, I need, social media management, all this kind of stuff. Like, yeah, I can do that. At the time, I was just grabbing low-hanging fruit, right? Whatever I can do to jack my income up and, get people in the door. Then one of my clients, who's still a client today for J. Michael Strategies, one of my clients had heard about this guy named Russell Brunson. And I had heard about him like briefly, but I kind of was like, that guy seems like one of those influencers that we were talking about. All positive, all hype, no substance. And basically he said, listen, my client said this. He said, I want you to learn his strategies because I want you to do them for us. And so he sent me his Russell Brunson's Secrets Trilogy, .com secrets, expert secrets, and traffic secrets. I read through them, and my mind was blown.
A lot of good information that you put me through as well.
I put all of our employees through it. I am so blown away by Russell strategies, and so I decided in that moment, this is, but before that, I was kind of treating things very freelance, not very organized. I decided at that moment, this is what we're doing.
Yeah.
We're doing funnel strategy because that is what is missing in the market. What's missing in the market is comprehensive strategy, where it's not just like, I can do this a la carte thing and this a la carte thing, and you deal with the rest, and I don't know what's happening with results. I want to help you with your results. That's what I want to do. I want to help you with that. I want to help you to create the right funnel for that. So,
well, the great thing with Russell is that he doesn't just tell you that these things work like all the other videos and all the other influencers do. Yep. He tells you all the failures he made doing that, like going out to the other people. And he also shows you why it works and how it works. He's extremely transparent, and that's why he's authentic.
One of the cool things about him too, and this is what I hope to build into this channel as well, is he documents his process. So he started documenting his process before he was successful, and that is such a value to guys like us, where we can now read the book and read the potato gun story. If you haven't heard the potato gun story from Russell Brunson, it's a great one. It's in literally any material that he's put out there, whether it be a video or a book. Just look up Russell Brunson and you'll get the potato gun story.
That was his first start.
That was
that's how he started.
First, literally, like, he was just trying to get a couple extra bucks because he was wrestling in college.
Yep.
And man, like, to me, that is so valuable for me to look at. And you're 100% right. Like, he's an authentic guy. I think that's also what really turned me on to him.
I agree.
I feel like he's kind of realistic with me. I do feel like he's grown a little bit hypey as
now he's on
years have
stage.
gone on.
He's got
the whole thing.
But that happens. That happens with the fame and the clout.
100%. And again, he is still authentic. It's just that authentic self doesn't necessarily come through as much.
He's busy now, you know.
Exactly. He's busy. He's
busy
got
guy.
stuff going on. But yeah. So basically, you know, we determined that would be. Well, excuse me. At the time, I determined that would be the direction that we went in, and suddenly business started like pouring in.
Yeah.
So my clients were referring me people, and again, it's just me at this point. J. Michael is literally me. My name is Joseph Michael. That's why we called it J. Michael. Literally just slapping a name on the company. And now all of a sudden we're doing like business. So I was like, man, I have got to get some help. Got to get some help. And I'm a big believer in, you know, bringing in people that I know and trust. And so I was just going through, you know, literally every day I would like sit through like my phone contacts. And just be like, who am I missing? Who did my eye miss yesterday that I can reach out to? And you know, about a month had passed, and I was just, you know, praying a ton about it. Just like, what am I supposed to be doing? And this was last fall during the MLB playoffs, and the Yankees were playing in San Diego.
Yep.
Because of, you know, COVID and all that. So they were playing on
Empty
neutral
stadium.
territory. Empty stadium, which was ridiculous.
Weird.
Very weird. And anyway, so San Diego. Now I had my honeymoon in San Diego. We love San Diego. It's just a great city. And so I'm watching the game, thinking about San Diego, and then you know, commercial break went on. I was like, I'm gonna go take a shower. So I walk upstairs, still thinking about San Diego, thinking about it, get in the shower, and then I'm thinking about my last trip to San Diego. And the last trip to San Diego that I went on, which was for one of my other companies, I had lunch with this guy named Andrew Beach, who I went to college with. We rubbed shoulders at a couple of different companies that we worked for.
But you guys weren't in the same friend group in college, right?
Definitely not in college. And even at the when I worked for the corporate company, he worked there as well. And he was always out. He was a sales guy on the field.
So you knew him. You were like
I knew him. Yeah. If I saw him, I'd be like, hey. So I knew him enough that when I went to San Diego and I knew that he lived there, you know, I call up Andrew Beach. So anyway, so I had breakfast with him that one time. Anyway, back to the shower. Back to the shower. I'm thinking about San Diego. I'm thinking about that time that I had breakfast with Andrew Beach. And, oh my gosh, Andrew Beach. I haven't thought of him. I didn't even think about him.
Mid-shampoo.
Andrew Beach. So, you know, I said to myself, okay, I was like trying to like hold myself back. I was like, I don't want to come across too like eager about this. Like, I don't know like what he's up to right now. I don't even know if I could afford like hiring him or bringing him on. And I
play it cool, act cool. Yep.
So I texted him that night. And I was like, hey man, hope you're doing well. Let's catch up.
That's nice. Let him come to you. Good idea.
Next day, we get on a phone call, and within the first 5 minutes, he says something to the effect of, I'm thinking about leaving my company. I'm thinking about doing something for myself.
He's at a corporate company at this time, or
he was at a corporate company doing franchise sales.
Okay.
And and I as soon as he said that, I was like, well, I'm not promising anything, but I might have the opportunity for you. Next day, I flew out to San Diego. And we had a verbal agreement in place, and Andrew started working with me pretty soon after that. So again, it was just me and Andrew at that point. And you know, as the months went on, we saw the needs. We brought Jesus on as a graphic designer. We brought you on originally for just traffic, but now you've sort of grown into a project management role. We've got a couple of other guys that have come on, and man, this whole thing is just erupting and growing. And I think a lot of that has to do with our honestly. Our faithfulness to God, our faithfulness to our clients, and sort of that combination effect between Andrew's and my entrepreneurial spirit.
And that's what drew me to you guys. After interviewing and just talking to you guys were really cool, and you guys were extremely transparent. You know, you put it all out there. You told me like you're starting a company. Like this is our plan. This is our goal. This is where we want to be. Yep. We think you can help us, and that immediately was like the most honest thing I heard out of all the interviews I did. You know, I was doing a ton of different interviews at the time, all on Zoom, and that's what really drew me to you guys.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. That's really good to hear. I didn't know that, and that's really great for me to hear, because that's what we want to do. That's who we want to be. That's what we want to be for other people. Everything that I'm building this company for is for other people. I know that sounds cliche, and I'm really not trying to be cliche about this. This is for my family. This is for you. This is for people that might be listening that just need that little extra push, that sort of like real, you know, kick in the pants to just get something going. And that's what I'm in this for. That's what this whole thing is.
Growth, right?
Growth and support, and really just promoting that American entrepreneurial spirit, authentic American entrepreneurship. That's what this is.
And you know what's funny is in college, they always tell you the number one thing when you're going to graduate is don't go work for a startup. Do not do it, right? And what did I do? I went to go work for a startup. And why I did that was because one day I want to own a company just like you. I want to do that. And I think the best way to put myself in the best position to do that is to learn from Andrew and yourself and pick your guys' brain. And when you grow, I grow. And I see the decisions you're making and what you go through. And I only think it's going to help me in the long run. I don't think I would be able to get that sitting in a cubicle working 9 to 5.
There's no way you would. There's not even a chance you would get that. There's just no way. So that's really cool to kind of hear where you're at on that. And I mean, you know, that's the Jay Michael story that, you know, we're really on page 1. We're on chapter 1. And you're like, I should say we're on chapter 1, you're on page 1 of your story, right? Yeah. Imagine what, you know, episode 149 of Fortunes and Freedom is going to look like, where, you know, wherever you are. I mean, whatever. I hope you're still with us, but I hope that you're doing bigger, better things with us. I hope you've got your own operations that you're dealing with. Like, that's what I hope for you, right? And I think that this, you know, this whole thing is going to be, as we're documenting the story. You know, we're telling our story as it's happening. All the you know, the positives and the negatives all together.
The ups and downs, yeah.
The ups and downs, baby.
Makes for the best story, you know? No one ever wants to hear just about the success. You want to hear about the failures.
Exactly.
You want to hear about what you're learning from.
Exactly. If it's just the successes, you might get somebody to watch 1, 2, 3 things of yours. But if you can really be honest, the whole thing, and really, really know that what's being said is true and what's being said is realistic to you, that's what keeps people listening. So thank you for listening. Thank you for joining us on our very, very first episode of Fortunes and Freedom, Authentic American Entrepreneurship. Hey, we're a new channel, and we could use all the subscribers we could possibly get. Make sure you smash that subscribe button. I hate when people say that.
I love it. Smash that subscribe button.
Smash that subscribe button. Hit the little notification thing as well, so you're notified whenever we have new episodes. We have multiple shows that we run here. We've got Fortunes and Freedom, Authentic American Entrepreneurship. We've also got F&F University, which is a little bit more instructional, and then we've got our hot takes, which are sort of you know, whatever I'm fixing to rant about in a given day. We talk politics, we talk sports, the whole thing. I want you to get a better glimpse of who I am and the things that make me pumped and pissed.
And if you guys have any ideas for our videos, or you want to hear about a specific topic, comment, and we'll be sure to reply and like your comment.
Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Let's work.